thanks a lot, everyone, for coming. Um, we are starting, despite the people that are still sitting at the moment. So, welcome everyone, and welcome to this talk that we decided to call "Dashboard from Scratch: Faster Than Ever." So, why did we decide to give it this name? Well, we started to create dashboards from spreadsheets since Odoo 16. So, for the last 2 years, we've hosted presentations where we were showing you how we can create a complete dashboard starting from the spreadsheet environment. So this year, we are going to do it again. And we are confident that with all the improvements that we did on Odoo 18, we are able to do more things than before and in less time than in the previous year. My name is Hugo, and this is Richard. We are business analysts at Odoo, studio spreadsheet experts, and we are responsible for the business intelligence services as well. And we are here today. We are really proud to be here today to present you our talk on spreadsheets. Okay, so that's it for the small introduction. As I said, we are going to be faster. But how can we show that we are actually faster? Well, we could just tell you that we are, but I don't think you are so many of us here just to hear me saying that. So we prefer to actually prove our point today.
Yes, Hugo, indeed. And to prove our points, we think that the best solution is to simply do the same thing as last year. So we had a big use case going on commissions that works as an incentive for our salespeople to feel rewarded based on the deals that they close. And we took exactly 37 minutes to close the dashboard. This year, for Odoo 18, we are going to solve the exact same use case, but we aim to do it 2 times faster. We would like to still explain all the steps, of course, that we go through and also showcase the new features we got to build dashboards, but this is what we will do together, right? At this point in the presentation, we need to give you a business context to explain you the story that we will solve together. And to be fair with last year's performance, we are literally going to broadcast ourselves from last year, so we'll let you enjoy this small clip of ourselves.
So let's jump into today's context. Again, a business scenario. We have a very hands-on example. In our case here, we will be business owners of a retail company that sells seasonal products. So meaning scarves, beach balls, shorts, all the things alike. And as you can imagine, all those sales volume are very constant. We try at least to keep them constant throughout the years. But the issue is that, of course, if you are selling scarves, you won't sell them in summer. So there will be some variability still. And for the use case here, we also want to work on a commission policy because all our salespeople are super hardworking. We want to give them incentive to keep the performance as well as defining the long-term revenue as well for the company. So that's why we're going to base it on different factors that we'll see together afterwards.
Yeah, and these commissions at the moment, we take a lot of time to actually compute them. Obviously, we need to data that we need to do. This is crucial because we really want to give an incentive to our salesperson, but it takes way too much time at the moment, and I think it should be an automated process because the rules are quite well defined and they do not change over time. So we want to be more efficient and to try to create together a dashboard that will help us to have all those commissions already displayed and that we can share with our salesperson so that they can also see their results, each of them in real life. Okay. So let's go to this commission plan that we designed together to see actually what we put into it in there. So first of all, as we explained, we are selling different categories of products that are seasonal by base. So it's only natural that our commission policy would also be based on these product categories to be sure that we are reflecting this, and also based on a quarterly basis to reflect the seasonality of our products. So we'll define a target per product category and per season, all right? Those targets, how do we define them? Well, we don't want to invent some targets that are coming out of the blue like this and are not in touch with reality. So we want to compute them based on past performances to be sure that we have something realistic in this case. And one last detail, in this case, we are not taking, for example, the seniority of our salesperson into account. We could have done that, but we would lag a bit of time during this talk to do it. So that would be for another moment. In this case, we'll keep the same target for everyone.
All right, and this moment is now. We are going to go so fast in today's resolution that we are going to include this new dimension, which is the seniority of each salesperson to have the right targets based on how long you stayed at the company. I just noted that we were so young last year, but whatever. So we are going to start the time now to compare it with last year, right? And as last year, we want to provide you with some guidelines in order for you to not get lost during the resolution. And the first step is about the preparation. The preparation is there for you to have all the ingredients you need to compute the right dashboard, and it consists in first defining the commission policy. So as we said, the commission is based on a quarterly basis, will be specific for each product category as well, and also will have an impact on your sales revenue, all right? So the policy will be there first, then we will retrieve all the past data, which means we are going to take the revenues that we accomplished during last years to use it as a basis to compute and forecast the revenue that we expect for the current year and set these as targets simply, which is our third step here. So projecting what we achieved versus what we will expect to achieve in this year. All right? So it's time to now jump in Odoo. All right? So Odoo's own home screen at this point. We will first start by defining the commission policy. All right? So I do have a sheet already ready in my dashboard app that you can find right here. And our first feature now is that thanks to the debug mode, I can access the back scene of my dashboard directly with the small pencil. And you can see that each dashboard is actually just hosted in an Odoo spreadsheet. All right, so the dashboard is only the first sheet that you see. And the first table there will be our commission policy. All right, the first column depicts the percentage over your target that you are achieving. This means that at 0%, you are on your target and you benefit from a 20% commission rate based on the extra revenue that you exceeded compared to your revenue. You can see that this percentage decreases slowly because we also want the commission to still be growing but decreasing as your revenue is, say, evolving, all right?
Can you maybe display how is that going to look? Like, are we sure that it's still going to evolve so that we have an incentive for the salesperson to actually sell more?
Indeed, I can understand that there's a small doubt here, and the easy way to visualize it is to use the second table. I will simply go to the first cell and then insert a chart. And you can see that since it is a whole table, Odoo detected that it is a whole data there, and you can now see that for a basis, so a target of $1,000, if you achieved a revenue of $1,500, you are eligible for a commission of $65. And you can see that it still grows with your revenues, but then it decreases slowly, so decreasing margins. All right?
Okay,
so
that's really nice. So I think that we have this commission. So how are you actually going to make the targets now so that we can...
So moving to the second step, we have this policy, so now I'm going to fetch all the revenues that we achieved, and for this I'm going to go back in my home screen and to the sales app. The best place to see this data is of course from the reporting menu, sales, going to the pivot view, and I will remove this filter for the last year because we want to go even further in the past. And I will now define my two dimensions. The first one will be the order date on the quarterly basis, as you mentioned, and then the second axis will be displaying all the salespeople in our team, and we now have this nice pivot that I can insert in my dashboard. I will use this button then, inserting in my spreadsheet. I will target my dashboard, which is here at the end, the commission policy, which is right here, and I now have my pivot inserted with a nice display and all the data that we saw. What you need to understand at this point is that every figure in here, every number will be live and synchronized. So if there is an update, a new sale order created, these sales are going to be updated as well.
Okay, that looks really nice, but I see here that we have the quantity ordered, and I see no notion of the category of product, or we define commission policy that is dependent on the category and on the untaxed total. So is there not an issue with your table?
I made a small mistake, but that's not an issue anymore because I can now add a new measure. As you can see now, you can see the columns, the rows, and the measures. I can add a new measure because indeed we want to base it on the revenue, not the quantity ordered. So I will add a new measure here. And I will type in simply the untaxed total here as a new measure. You will see a small warning here and nothing changed. What the warning says is that this pivot that I inserted is inserted in static mode. What the static mode means is that every cell here will be synchronized and live, yes, but the size of the table will not expand or compact based on what we are going to use here. So I have my two measures, but I only have one column for now, And if I want to see the dynamic version of this pivot, I can simply empty out this sheet and use the new formula that you can see, which is equal pivot 1 in this case, so the first pivot that we inserted, and I now have this new pivot. I can now use this new feature as well to have a nice overview, and I have now my new pivot with the 2 columns, so the quantity ordered as well as the untaxed total. All right? So I've got the right measure. I'll go back to my properties with the right click, and you will see that I can now also hide the measure, and now the pivot really is dynamic in the sense that it stretches and compacts itself as it should be. Okay? I will even remove it, to be fair, because we won't be using it. And I will add the category, as Hugo said, because we also have a target per category, right? So new row here, adding the category. And here I will have a spill error. That is normal. What it says is that I don't have enough row to display the whole table because it now stretches. So an easy way to solve it is simply to go at the bottom, add more rows, and you will see that I now have the salesperson first, the category second, and now we have a nice display to really see that it is a subcategory of the first dimension. All right? I just want to invert the two, so I can now drag and drop the tile to have the category first and the salesperson second, and I can now see that I have another display with another category here. I would like to get rid of those top categories, so I can go to the domain, edit it, and say that the category should contain categ, simply just to clean out the data a little bit. I now have category 1, all my salespeople, and their revenues per quarter. Okay, so I effectively just retrieve all the past data and revenue that I achieved. So I will now start working on the targets. All right?
Nice.
So for the targets, I'm going to establish it, as we said, on the category. So category 1 here. I'm going to stretch it to have the second one as well. I will now drag and drop it to go down to the 4th. I will freeze the 2 first row to see the quarters, and just simply do this to have all the data up to, I forgot the last one, but I'll just do this, to have the right scheme. All right? So the way that we are going to establish our targets is to use the median. We could have used the average, but we want to don't take into account the big outliers that may happen, so the 0, the big values as well. So median is an accurate estimate of what the target should be, and at this point I can just simply write the median there, and then select it for all the salespeople in the first category, and this for the 4-1 to come.
Okay, so that's nice. You'll be able to retrieve the past data for all the quarters, but 2024 is not over yet. So how are we going to establish a future target for 2024?
Good question, thanks. And we are going to define what we call a growth factor. So we are going to take all the revenues that we've got from last year, compare it to the year before, 2022, and then we expect to do at least as well as last year. So we use this to project the revenue from 2023 up to 2024, which is our current year. Okay? So I will go there, stretch it, and then have all the medians computed for all those quarters. I will, of course, remove it for this year, as we said, and compute the growth factor. The growth factor is quite easy to compute. I will just take the sum of all the revenues in 2023, right? So all the totals for those 4 Qs, and I will divide it by the sum of the revenue of the 4 Qs before. Simply have this growth factor, format it in a percentage, of course, and it is now a time for us to also show a new feature as well, because we do support vectors. So I'm going to take all the medians from previous year, and I can now multiply it with this growth factor to have it expanded to 2024, and vectors are much more powerful now for Excel for you to work. Cool, so there's only the last step to finish this first preparation stage. We only want to make targets quite beautiful, and for this I'm going to round them up to the hundreds. So I'm just going to copy this down, go there, go here to have the same table simply, and I will, I think I copied the wrong range.
Paste as values.
Okay, yeah.
because
I'm just going to do it again here with a paste as value indeed. Should work. Okay, I think I know why. I would just take them back from the top row. Small issue from my side here. I will simply do this to get the same scheme. If it does so,
We have a loading issue.
Yeah, that's a
Don't
saving
worry,
issue.
why?
I think we need
So-
to just reload it, sorry.
Just hope that. Oh.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Okay, I guess we lost the connection here, so we would need to go through the operation
Okay.
again.
So
That's
that
okay.
hasn't happened before.
I'll do it fast.
What we
it's
probably
okay.
we are just going to take one of the solutions and delete the tables, or prefer that, or do it again. No,
I
no.
think it's better if I do it quick.
Okay.
Bear with me, I'll just need some few minutes, I'm sorry about it. So doing it again, sales, reporting sales, pivot, filter out, quarter, salesperson. No, I do directly with the category. Category here, the salesperson second, I want the measure to be here. It also showcases the normal flow, right? So that's the thing I want to see here. I will expand them all. Insert in spreadsheets at this point. We'll go to the dashboard, to the commission policy.
We can actually insert just this table. So
Wait, I do have the
we
pivot
found
2
it.
here though. So the first one was inserted.
Yeah. So maybe you can just copy the targets from one of the solutions that we made before.
Right, that's
So
also a
that-
good point. Okay, I'll do this just to go a bit quicker.
Sorry
because
about the
there's
small
so
issue.
many things to show still. So dashboard here, configuration dashboard. We'll go to the solution which
Sales,
was here.
dry run solution. Yeah. Targets.
Yes. All right, sorry. So just for the sake of the demo, the formula we used was simply the rounds of the range, and then you would use -2 just to round it up to the 100. But I'm going to copy this in my spreadsheet. Dashboard, sales, and going back to our use case, which was, sorry, not this one,
Commission policy.
commission
one.
policy indeed, in a new tab, and paste it here. All right. Sorry about the small issue, and it also impacts our timing, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
the first step is done. So we've got our targets based on what we did before.
But we
Alright.
were also able to showcase this new feature that allows us to copy from one spreadsheet to another between Odoo Spreadsheets, which was not possible before Odoo 18. So that's a great improvement as well. So that's it for the first part. I'm just going to do a small lap on my watch to display that we finished this part a bit longer than what we expected. But now we're going to go over the second part, which is the most interesting part. We are going to process the information that we set here. So we just took the target, we took the past data, and now we want to use this data to actually compute the commissions. If you had the chance to actually see our talk last year, you could have remembered that it was quite of a difficult process, because first of all, we had to create a dynamic table, and for that we had to tweak the formulas manually in order to be able to have this dynamic table. Well, this table is already dynamic thanks to the fact that we just use equal Odoo pivot, and that helped us to already do this step. So now we can just focus on the other step, which is calculating our commission amounts. So last time we had to create a few tables, and every time we had to compute a measure, it was a new table we had to create. And our solution was working, but one big problem that would occur would be the scalability. Because if we had to add more categories of products, for example, it would mean that we have to recompute the full table. Here, we will take advantage of a new feature of Odoo 18, which is the calculated measures, where we will create measures directly in our pivot to do the new measures that we need. Those measures are going to be, first of all, the target, because we decided a target per quarter and per category, but we need to find it in our pivot to be sure of what is the actual target for each of our category and salesperson. Then we're going to compute for each salesperson how well they performed against this target, so to see what is the percentage above the target that they are. That will enable us to go back to the first table that we had, to find the commission rate we will apply, and then we will use this to compute the commission amount. So let's jump back into Odoo and do this part, I hope without issues this time. So I'm just going to come back here and call my pivot table that wasn't there. This time it's saved. I'm just going to do the few modifications that we did before and were not saved, where I'm just going to change here the measure that we are going to take as the base, which would be the untaxed total. here, up, and I'm gonna add the category of product here as well because I will need it for the rest. Okay. I'm also just editing the domain. Sadly, this wasn't saved as well. So, category up contains category. Right. So I have my table as it should have been initially, and this time it's saved without issues. So as I said, the first element will be to find the target. So to do this, I will come here, measures, and add a new calculated measure. I will have the spill again because my new measure is going to add some columns. So I'm just going to add some columns here as well. And you will see this new measure that appears. And I will then rename it target. Okay. And instead of equals 0, I will want to find my value into my targets that are here. So I'm just going to also rename this targets up. And so the target will be the combination of the right quarter and the right category. So to do this, I will need two Excel formula, which are called HLOOKUP and match. So I'm just going to do a HLOOKUP of my quarter. So you see here the different rows, measures, and columns that are available. So I'm going to call the quarter I'm in. I will look for the quarter in this range of my targets here. Okay. I can go a bit further so that I take into account future quarters as well. And my index will then be, for that I need to match my category. So I will say match the category into this column here. And those tables are not sorted, so I'm just putting some zeros here. Okay. So here you will see that now I have this amount that is computed directly into my pivot. So we can check, is it the right target for a specific quarter? Here, so quarter 3 of 2021, I found a value of 2,900. So if I go back to my target, for category 1 and Q3, I have 2,900. So that seems right. If I look at the 100, 2,700, then a bit below, I have 2,700. So I was able to find the right target into my pivot directly. Okay, so now I can go on to my second measure. I want to see how my salesperson performed against that target. So I'm going to add a new calculated measure, and I will say that this is the percentage over target. Okay, once again, I'm just going to add a lot more columns at the moment so that we can see them. Okay, and this here will be equal to my total for the salesperson minus their target over their target amount. And you can see here that I'm able to use the measures that I just defined before. So I'm able to do something that is recursive here. Okay, so it's going to display a small dollar amount. It's not a problem. I can say it's a ratio and it's going to change in the table directly. And here, once again, we can just check, is the formula right? Well, here I had an amount of 4,965 and a target of 2,900. It seems a bit appropriate that I'm 71% above the target. So that seems right as well. With this amount over target, I'm able to actually go back to my commission policy to find which is the commission rate that I want to apply for this amount above the target. So that will be, again, a new measure. And this measure, in this case, will be my commission rate. And I will do then a VLOOKUP of my percent over target into this table here. Okay, and here I want the second value, and this time it's a sorted table, so I will just put a 1. Okay, so if we go back, still need more columns, sorry. Here I will find the commission rate that should be applied. Once again, we can quickly verify this amount. So here I had somebody that is 2.29% above target, and I have a commission rate of 20%. And here, for example, I have 30% of a target, 16.5. So if we look, 2% above target, that should be 20% because it's between 0 and 5. And the 20%, there I have the right value as well. So everything is looking right until now. So I can again come back to my target and use all of this to now compute my commission amount. So I'm once again going to come back, add this new calculated measure that I will call commission amount. And this commission amount is going to be my commission rate times the price subtotal minus the target, because I'm only paying my salesperson for what they performed above the target actually. Up, small shit, that was good. Here, okay, and here I will then find my commission amount. It's in percentage. I will also just change the format, put it back to a currency, and I can once again check if everything is looking right. Here we knew that this 10.9% looks good. So I had 9,500 minus 3,000, so about 600, for which I had to 700 actually, for which I had to apply a commission rate of 11%. So my amount seems actually good. So I just finished it. I have computed my commission amount. Here my table is a bit big. There are too many values. So all the things that I used for the computation, I'm just gonna hide them as well. Okay, so that they don't come and pollute my table. And I just ended up with a sheet that's gonna display me the commission amount for every category and every salesperson, just like this.
All right, thanks, Hugo. Very impressive, actually. It went much faster than last year as well. So we already moved to the third step, which is about visuals. So for this, we're going to play with the dashboard a little bit. We will first define some filters in order to look for what a specific salesperson achieved, maybe a specific product category as well, and also look for a specific date. You could check on what you achieved for the Q2, for example, right? There's also other things we want to display, the performance over the last quarter in each category, and finally the target achievement per product category. So let's do it together and jump back into Odoo. So I'm going to quickly have it displayed in a nicer manner. And for the global filters I'm going to talk about, it is on the top right corner, and they are much more powerful than Excel filters because you can filter on things that you don't see and also across many different data sources. So for a relation filter, so for us to see a drop-down list of all the salespeople, I will be first naming the filter salesperson. And in Odoo, a salesperson is a user. So the model I would like to target is a user. All right? I could have it to be on myself by default, just for the use of it. And then I also have the field matching part. The field matching part is there for me to explain, okay, when I do select a specific user, I want to see the person in charge of the sale order. I could have checked to see who created the sale order, but in our case, I want to see the salesperson in charge to give them the right commission. So here, saving, quite straightforward. Then I create another one for the product category, which is called the product category as a model. And here you can see that I would see all categories at once. But I only want to inspect or analyze values from these four specific categories. So I will use the domain now to restrict those values, a new feature from this year. And I want to say that I can only select product categories for which their name contains categ, as we did for the pivot. Confirm, and I can now only select those four categories and clean out the selection. Again, field matching was already suggested for me, so I can save. The last one is the date. I can still, of course, either create an absolute filter to have a specific month or quarter, or see the last 7 days or last month, or have a starting and end date as before. In our case, I want to select a specific quarter, so removing the month option, put it date. And here I need to explain again which field I want to target. In our case, we simply take the order date. All right? I could have taken the creation date or delivery date as well, right? So that's why you need to specify it to Odoo. Save. And now you can see that if I filter out on 2033, the dynamic pivot stretches it properly and all my data is correctly filtered. All right? So that's it for filters. And what we want to achieve now, going back in the slides quickly, is the performance over the last quarter in each category. So the layout I want to see is salespeople on the left as rows, then only the last quarter and then the four categories, okay? So, jumping back in Odoo. And I will go to my properties here in order to have a different structure. So as we said, I only want a salesperson in the rows, so I can even drag and drop the product category to be in the columns instead. And I now have only salespeople on the left, quarters and categories each on the top, okay? The only thing I need is the last quarter though. So for now it is of course in a temporal order. And I only want to see the last one, so I will resort it to be descending, so to only see the last quarter there. And if I want to hide all the other columns, I can actually dig a bit further in this formula and see that at the very end you have the column count, so I can restrict it to only take the four first columns, sorry, and I now have effectively the last quarter, categories, and salespeople. So what's only left for me is to copy this single formula that expands everything, and then put it in the main sheet, because it will be the final dashboard. All right? So copying this, I already read the format, and that's it for this part. Now, in the slides, we also want to do the target achievement per product category.
Yeah.
Would you like to do it, Ugo?
Yeah, I can maybe show that. So the goal here is just to have a small graph that will show us for one specific quarter what was the target, what was the revenue that we achieved, and by playing with the filters, this graph will display actually, for example, if we filter on one salesperson, only the performance of that salesperson, and we can really, in the blink of an eye, compare targets and revenue. So, in order to do this, I'm jumping back to Odoo again, and I will just play a little bit with this formula right here. So, I'm going to call some functions directly because it's easier in this case. And the first thing I want to get is the pivot header for the first quarter of that we have in the table. So this will be just here, hashtag date quarter, because the hashtag always take the index and not the ID. So if I put a hashtag and I can just say 1, it's going to take the first quarter element, which in this case, since we are descending, would be Q4 2024. For in this quarter, I will want to get two elements, my target and my revenue. So I will just say here, target and revenue. And then I will want to get that information for every category. So I'm also just going to call the pivot header for a category. And then this will be actually just pivot header 1. I have to still put the date quarter 1 because the formula is built that way and the pivot is built that way, so I have to precise. And then I will call the second thing, which will be, in this case, hashtag categ ID, because categ ID is my category. And here I will use also vectorization by calling the function sequence. Sequence is just going to display an array of 4 elements. So here I want to have 4 categories, so I would just say sequence 4 like this, and then automatically I get my 4 categories directly. So now if I want the measure, I can just copy paste this element, change this to say I want the Odoo value, the pivot value, and I will need in my formula to add a measure. So if I go here, I have the suggestion of all my measures. In this case, I will want to get then the target, enter, and I have my data. I can copy this again, come here, and just change my target so that I have my revenue instead, which will be the price subtotal. Up. So by doing this, I have my table directly. Up, I'm just going to also put a small layout here so that I have a nicer table. And I said I want to see that as a graph, so I can just click here, insert a chart, and directly I have my chart ready with my target and my revenue available for each category. And if I play with the filters on a salesperson specifically, I will see his results for the quarter automatically, right? So that's all for everything that we did last year. And the question is actually, did we go faster? We had a small issue, but I think we still managed to actually go faster. Here are the time that we took for these operations last year. So for the preparation, we took 9:30 minutes. Here, I have a time of 11:56 because we had the issue there, so we took a bit more time in this case. But for the manipulation, which was actually the hardest part because you really need to think about the situation, last year it was 19 minutes and I took 9, taking into account that I had to redo some operation as well. For the visualization, we took 8 minutes last year, and 8:30, we are at 8 minutes here. So really the manipulation process went way faster than in the previous year, and even with the error we had that forced us to redo a lot of things, we went actually really faster than last year. Well, all the data will be on Strava, so if you want to see it, you can actually see that information. Okay. Now we have a bit too much time still left, so we don't want to do a too long Q&A, and we promised one thing was to add the seniority into our table. So can you please show us that, Richard?
Sure. So for the seniority, I'll jump back to Odoo. And let's get back to the top table here that we need to understand together. It is a quick table that explains that your seniority will of course ramp up, and your targets will also reflect the fact that if you are new, you don't have any target yet, but after 1 year you should be on the normal target, and for all those people, of course, you would go a bit above because it's too easy for you, right? To get the seniority, what we will do together here is to combine another source of data. So we've got the sales revenue here. I'm going to now insert data from the employee, and that really is the strength of dashboard and spreadsheets, that you can take data from multiple sources, combine them, and then manipulate it in this environment. So I'm going to go here in my employees app. I will go to the list view, and from there I'm able to see, not yet, but I'm going to see the date at which I arrived in the company, and that will be the basis for my seniority. So I'm going to insert it as a list, right, in my spreadsheet. So I target it again, go to my commission policy. I will confirm. It was inserted. I will just clean up the columns a little bit for you to see it a bit better. And I will now call the first contract date, which is the information that we need, because we need to know at what time they arrived. Okay? So going here, I'm going to expand it here to also see the values of them. I could have used the sequence formula as you saw before, but that's a nice trick, which also serves for performance. And if you want to know more about what spreadsheet and dashboard performance evolved in Odoo 18, there's another talk that we'll be referencing. I think it is tomorrow. So for those who are interested in performance in spreadsheet, there's a talk dedicated to this topic. Cool, so we have the starting date. What we need to compute now is the seniority. So for that, I'm creating a new column, seniority. And you can see that here the data table detected that you have a new column, so the design also expands. I will use now the date diff formula in order to take this as the starting point, and then today as the end point. And the unit I want to see is month, of course. So here I would do this. I think I miswrote today, so I write it again. Yeah, okay, I forgot to do it on the whole row, so let me just do it again quickly, because I want to showcase what actually happened and the nice feature that we have. So here, today, and then M here, and the formula automatically expands. That's the fact that we have now a nice pivot table, and it detects the formula and columns nicely. So we've got the seniority now for each person. In order to have the right target for each salesperson there, it means that the measure that we used here for the target needs to be multiplied by the right coefficient. So first, I will create a new measure to detect what is the seniority of the salesperson. So it is a new computed measure here that will be simply the VLOOKUP of the user ID, which is the salesperson. And I will look for this value in the new list that I just created. Take the third column, of course, and there we go. We now have a new computed measure that I forgot to rename, the seniority simply there. And you can now see that our Excel sheet has a specific seniority in there, and all the right seniority were applied for each person. From there, I only need to now create a measure to have the right coefficients, which is again just a VLOOKUP, in fact. So I'll go down there, create seniority coefficients, and then make a VLOOKUP. Oops. A VLOOKUP without the zero of my seniority in this specific subtable that we need to use. I misclicked.
No, just missing the...
Yeah, so VLOOKUP of my seniority, as I said, a comma, and then the range that is right here, the second column that is sorted in that case. And then now I can see that after 52 months, I'm at 110% of my target that I need to do. I will also divide it by 100 to have a nicer coefficient for me to multiply the targets. And at this point, the last thing I need to do is simply to go back to my targets, measure, and then multiply it by the seniority percentage, right? And I now have my commission, which is based on my new targets, and everything was recomputed. I can finally just hide those measures, and just like that, we also introduce a new dimension, which is the seniority.
Yeah, so that was all for the seniority. I think we still have a bit of time before the Q&A session. So last time we didn't have this time, but to show you more about the visualization and how we can play with the data. But today we have it, so we want to show you a bit more how we can play with the tables we created in order to show other interesting information. So for example, if I want to get now the summary table of the last 4 quarters, but without taking into account the category. I just want to see for each salesperson what are the commissions they received on the last quarters for the last year. To do this, I will have to jump back into Odoo. And if we look at our table, the problem is that we have this category here at the top inside our pivot table. And this category is necessary for our calculated measures to work. So we need this category to be in the pivot. So if I actually want to see the sums for each salesperson, I will have to do a simple trick here, which is to duplicate my pivot table. So I'm just going to create a new one, which is going to be pivot number 3. Here I'm just going to call as well, like before, only 4 columns, so that I don't see too much information. And now I will take this product category and I will display it below the salesperson, so that it's still in the table, but I have the dimension salesperson before. Okay, I'm just going to add once again a few more rows because that's where the spinning is coming from. And here I come back to this table where I have the salesperson with their totals and then the category below. But I'm only interested in those rows, the rows with the users. In order to only get this row, what I will have to do is to actually also compute the formula myself, in this case, in order to call only this. So to do this, I will call once again my function sequence. I will call here 25 numbers, and I'm going to call the pivot header of this new pivot number 3. I don't want the value, I want the header first, sorry. And I will take it for then my user ID. And here I just say then not the number 1, but the one I have here. Okay, so this I can then drag and drop that information, and I find all my salesperson that were on the left without the categories. Okay, so I can now do the same thing for the here at the top. I will just get the quarters as well the same way. So just by getting number 3, then the date quarter number 1 to 4. Okay, I just think I might have an issue, so I will just duplicate this. Otherwise, I will run into maybe a small problem. So just doing like this, so I see my last 4 quarters in this case. Actually, I'm just gonna also just say 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top because it's easier for me. Okay. And here, then I will get the value for my pivot number 3. Okay, with my date quarter. So now I will want to get the commission amount. Sorry. For my date quarter, that will be this amount here. Okay, and I'm just going to fix this. And for the user ID, so I'm just going to type hashtag user ID. That is right there. Okay, and I will also block there. Okay, small issue again. Pivot 3. Good. It's supposed to be this way. So sometimes it can just be that I need to
the quotes.
There. And this I will be able to just drag my formula both ways to get my table. So I got the commission amount for each salesperson for each quarter. So this table, I will also just take it, copy it, and paste it on my dashboard as well. Up, and I forgot one small cell apparently. Bit more tricky than usual.
And there's only a small spill issues, but I think you've got the idea. This is all fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just gonna call it this way for the moment. Where was it? There. Well, I forgot the equal. Any case, I could have called that directly here, and it would be directly shown then in this case.
This is all okay.
But it's really a question of minutes that I don't want to take now. Okay?
This is all fine.
Yeah.
I just want to come back to the slides quickly. We also wanted to show the commission as a total percentage. I only go back to this specific point because it is worth showing, and then we'll move to the Q&A, which will be maybe more worth because we're a bit short in time. The only thing I want to show here is that for the commissions, so going back in the pivot one here, properties, you will see that my scorecards here have a small cog, and the usage is that I can either show the row value or I can even show them as a percentage of the column total, the total. And what this will do is that the amount can be now represented as a percentage, and you can see that now every person can have their percentage, say participation for this category for this whole quarter as well. So that's a new feature that you can do, which can help you go a bit faster in certain computations in your use cases. All right, so we went through a lot of things together, to be fair. I would just make a small recap here for you to also have the whole macro view of what we did together. So we prepared things together, we manipulate them through a pivot table with the new computed measures, the visualization part also with the filters to let you explore. You still have access, and I will also showcase this. So I'll go here to the dashboard view. The good thing with those dashboards is that you can really click on category 2, have it displayed at the filter. You can still write them down on the top, of course. And what's even more powerful now is that the commission amount here for this specific person can be clicked. And if you click on them, you can see the order that generated this commission as well. So the access to data is kept with new feature as well. So the new way to work with them is really powerful. So we needed data, commission policy. We took the past data as a basis to project targets. We used the new pivots with the new computed measures, super powerful as well, while keeping all the features that we had before, meaning exploration, data access, and the interactive manner to play with them, right? We also have new graphs, which you may want to see in the What's New talk as well, where you have more time to talk about those graphs. But what you want to take from this specific talk is that it is now much easier and also more convenient, more powerful actually as well, because we have more performance to design your dashboard, but in the end, you want to create them and analyze it from your own point of view, for your own company as well, for your own process. And for that, if you need any help, we are happy to also guide you in this regard. And for now, let's move to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Jake. All right, I'll read the questions from the pad. The first one is, what best practice would you recommend for designing a custom dashboard in Odoo that balance both performance and the ability to display complex, real-time data insights? Thank you.
I think the best practice is basically the 3 steps that we've got. I think that you need to start on the right foot, because if you start a bit too fast, if you dig too quickly in the formulas, you might lose the whole picture. So I would really take the time to take a sheet, sit down and see, okay, I need those amounts, and I know where those amounts are coming from. So for example, I needed 3 different tables here, the commission policy, a quick projection to visualize it, and also the seniority table. So make sure that you have all the data in hand, and that you have the right place in Odoo as well, so that you can insert both the list of employees in our case, also sales revenue, and once you have everything in hand, you can start moving to the next step. And I think that those guidelines are good practices for you.
Yeah. Also, I would insist on the fact that you need to use pivot tables as much as possible, and avoid the use of lists directly, because loading a full list inside the spreadsheet is going to be a lot of data that you actually don't need. And if you are able to aggregate this data into a pivot table before inserting it, that would be really beneficial for the performance of your sheet. And as we said before, try to vectorize as much as possible the data that you are using, because if you are not doing so, then Odoo has to remember every formula that you inputted into every cell separately. So that will be a much bigger time to compute. Well, if you vectorize everything and you use one formula that will do a whole area, it's going to be much better for the performance of the database. But if you are really interested in performance, as we said, there is a talk tomorrow about it, so I would advise to go and watch that talk.
Perfect, thank you. And the other one is, can we create a pivot in spreadsheet from a list view, or we can only manipulate and import it pivot as you shown in as the example with the Odoo.pivot formula?
Yeah. We can totally do that. We didn't have the occasion here to show it today, but here I can do a small example where I'm just going to go back to my sales and take, for example, this list here. I have a few customers, but normally I have a few customers that are the same. So I'm just going to take this sheet, insert it into a blank spreadsheet right here, and then I will take this data and I'm going to insert and go to a pivot table right there. So it will be based on this data here, and I can add a column. In this case, for example, that would be the customer, and a measure that will be the total. And here I have a bit too much information. It will tell me I need more columns. So I'm just going to put, I put it as columns, I'm just going to put it here. And here you will see the total per salesperson directly based on the list I inserted. So I'm really able to put a list, compute measures that I want from the list, and then make a pivot table. But with the new measures that we added, you are not forced to do the list. You can just insert the pivot and then compute your calculated measure from scratch without having to load the list as well. So for the performance, it would be better not to load the list.
Okay. And then inside the spreadsheet, can we access subfields in Odoo lists or pivots like partner ID reference?
It depends on the type of the field, actually. So if you have a numerical field, you can use it as a measure, as long as it is stored. That's an important point, because fields in Odoo may be stored or not. If they are stored, you can call it in a pivot table. If they aren't, it only is used for display. So that means that if you open a contact form, you would see it, but you cannot reuse it in a pivot table. In the case of the reference, it would be used as a dimension instead. So that means that you can group by this value in a row or in a column, but it doesn't make sense to have it in a value because you only take numerical values. It does not aggregate, say, text together.
So the question is actually about related fields as well. Can we
sorry,
call them in a list directly? At the moment we cannot. We can only call the fields from the model we are currently working on. But that will probably come in the future, in the next version or 2 versions. I don't know yet. There is a lot of infrastructure that need to change in Odoo for us to be able to do it. But it's coming at one point.
The current workaround for this then is to use Studio, because we can create a related field directly on the model that you are inserting, and then you would group by this reference.
Okay, thank you. We still have 2 minutes, so the other question is, can you show us subscription dashboard examples, like renewals percentage per sales agent?
Sorry, I didn't get the end of the question.
Yeah, renewals per percentage.
Per sales agent, yeah.
Okay, that would be a bit long. Renewals per. Well, I don't have on this database. I don't have the subscription installed, so I will not have enough demo data to do anything.
I think 2 minutes would be too short, unfortunately. But we encourage you to come to our booth. We can have more time to look into this together.
We are right there all day at the spreadsheet booth, so come and talk to us if you want to see a real life example. If you have questions about your business specifically, don't hesitate to come to us. We can discuss it and see what we can do.
Any last question, maybe, or?
We still have 1 minute, maybe last questions.
Yeah.
Is it possible to automatically expand a pivot imported in a spreadsheet, like a new row is added in the dataset to view it also in the spreadsheet?
Yeah, that can be done with a new formula then, I guess, if I heard correctly. It is the pivot formula that now expands. So if you insert it, it will be inserted statically. And then with the equal pivot 1 formula, for example, you have the whole pivot that is displayed as it should be seen. So in that case, yeah, it would.
Yeah, that
cover it.
wasn't maybe really visible in the presentation that we
Yes.
made because we didn't take the time to, for example, go and create a new salesperson. But in the way we did the presentation, if any new user would come, since we were calling the pivot dynamically, the salesperson would appear below when there was data. Same thing for the quarters. We could only see until Q4 of 2024 because that was the latest data. But if we go on 2025, it would appear automatically directly into the table and being computed with the measure that we defined. So no rework would be needed in any case. Everything will be there directly.
Yeah, I think we'll close it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we can close
sorry
this
for the
section.
issues, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thanks a
And
lot.
see you a bit later.